What's up, everybody? This is Jose from Sun Life. Welcome to Sun Life. An Uber driver in Hollywood, Florida, female driver, pulled out on a passenger, and she got fired from Uber. So let me explain to you guys a few things about how Uber works and how laws in the state of Florida work. First of all, it is absolutely normal for an Uber passenger to refuse to get out when you tell them to do so. In fact, if you've been watching my YouTube channel, I record dash cam footage of my passengers, and it is normal for Uber passengers to refuse to get out of your vehicle when you tell them to do so. So let me just explain a few things to you guys, and hopefully you guys can understand the situation better. So this is a female driver. She has another female passenger sitting right there, and the passenger disrespected the driver, which happens all the time, and the driver stopped the car and say, "Get out." Now, the passenger not only refused to get out, but she also started recording the driver. Now, this driver made some horrible decisions, and so did the passenger. In the case of the passenger, it looks like this passenger didn't exit the vehicle. Now, the Uber driver got on the phone and dialed 911. So, usually, the driver doesn't just call 911, okay? When the Uber driver calls 911, it's because you've already gone the path of acceptable behavior. Now you're refusing to leave their vehicle. So on the passenger's end, if your Uber driver tells you to leave their car, Uber drivers are contractors. We don't work for Uber. We are individual contractors. And so from the Uber driver's perspective, let me show you something. If you're an Uber driver and your passenger back there refuses to get out, the biggest weapon that you have is not a gun. The biggest weapon that you have is this little thing right here, a dash cam. Now, I use a GoPro for a lot of reasons. For one, it records in very high definition, and it records very good at night, and that makes it a much better dash cam. And I also place it really high up. I don't place it here at eye level like other Uber drivers do. I put it on the roof. It's got a plastic plate here. I put a little suction cup up there, and it records down on the passenger, so where you can see what they're doing underneath and everything. So from the Uber driver perspective, the biggest weapon that you have is this right here. Now, that person recorded, the passenger in the back is supposed to be an Instagram model, whatever. So we know she's a hood rat. This is the event. She showed you guys this much of the event. She didn't show you that she disrespected the Uber driver. She didn't show you that the Uber driver told her to get out. She didn't show you that the Uber driver finally decided to call cops. She showed you the Uber driver putting a gun on her. So you're getting this much information. Now, if that Uber driver, instead of having a gun, this costs as much as a gun. Instead of having a gun, she had this, then she would have probably not lost her job. Because now, on social media, is this short clip of the Uber driver pulling a gun on her, but you don't see the Uber driver being disrespected. You don't see the Uber driver asking her to get out and refusing. You don't see the Uber driver finally starting to talk to the cops. You just see the Uber driver pulling out a gun. So all this could have been in the driver's hands if she had one of these instead of one of these. Now, the driver, first of all, Uber policy does not allow drivers to carry arms. And the reason is pretty straightforward, is that the passengers are just as stupid as the drivers, and you have as many stupid passengers as you do stupid drivers. I mean, the mathematical equation is pretty straightforward. You're as likely to get a stupid driver as you are to get a stupid passenger. And in that scenario, that stupid driver can do something just as stupid as the passenger, and Uber doesn't want that liability. So, as per se, Uber policy does not allow drivers to be armed. Now, in my case, just so you guys understand something, this is not a weapon. This is the largest tool that fits my truck. This is the largest bolt on my pickup truck, okay? So this is in case my truck has any mechanical issues. I have this as sort of a tool, and this tool is the largest tool that fits my pickup truck. In fact, it fits the bottom of a trailer hitch. So when I'm hauling a trailer, I have a trailer hitch, and this is for the ball at the bottom. So this is the largest tool that fits my pickup truck. So I carry this around in case I have to unhitch my trailer and put on another trailer ball, which could happen. So this is not a weapon. This is the largest tool that fits my pickup truck. And I hope that Uber drivers can use some freaking common sense, and that, yes, as an Uber driver, you're not allowed to be armed. But if you've ever Uber driven, you know the last thing you want to be is unarmed while Uber driving. But that's just a little bit of common sense. Now this, even this, as if it were used as a weapon, would probably not be considered an aggravated assault for a few reasons. Now, if I were to hit somebody with this, it would probably be an aggravated assault. Could it be considered a deadly weapon? I'm not sure. But even if it was considered a deadly weapon, it's an improvisation. You improvised a weapon out of necessity. If you have one of these, that's not an improvised weapon. That is a full-on weapon. And the legality of you garnishing a weapon in Florida is pretty straightforward. It's illegal to brandish a weapon in Florida, and if you brandish a weapon in Florida, you can be arrested for brandishing a weapon. You can also be arrested for aggravated assault. Now, the interesting thing about aggravated assault is that you don't necessarily have to hit somebody. You just have to make the other person think you're going to hit them. So, resorting to violence on an Uber passenger, or the threat of violence, is probably something every Uber driver should avoid. Now, there are situations with Uber driving where you practically don't have any other choice, and in those circumstances you have to think like a freaking genius, not like an idiot. And this Uber driver didn't really think this out very well. I mean, she was already on the phone with 911. Is she going to get arrested? Probably not. So what I do with my passengers, when I find myself in these circumstances, and you'll find yourself in these circumstances almost on a monthly basis as an Uber driver, by the way. So she's not a very good Uber driver, because as an Uber driver, you'll find yourself in these circumstances all the time. And one of the beauties about Uber driving is you're going to find yourself with people refusing to leave your vehicle on a monthly basis. You're going to find yourself in these circumstances. This is part of Uber driving. So if your first response is to go like this, you're not going to last too long as an Uber driver, because Uber driving is about de-escalation, negotiation, and weighing out the scales on for your safety on a daily basis. And there's a few problems with like resorting to violence as an Uber driver. The first problem with resorting to violence as an Uber driver is the threat of and the completion of. In other words, people will call you out for your bluff. So if you pull it out and you don't use it, what's next? Now they know that you're square. Now they're gonna really walk all over. They might try to take it from you. They may have their own. Now you're in a situation where you don't call your bluff. And I learned that really early with Uber driving, probably within like the first 2 months, that if you make a threat to somebody, you better be willing to carry it out, because if not, they call it your bluff and then you look like a punk. So threatening people as an Uber driver, it's just an absolute, it's a loss. Either you can't win when you make a threat as an Uber driver. I mean, as an Uber driver, you gotta have some really good negotiation skills. You gotta have some really good de-escalation skills. And one thing that I learned about being an Uber driver is never to fake anything. Never fake a threat. Never lie, because people will call you out on it, and then you're gonna look like an idiot, and then they're gonna know you're full of crap, and they're gonna walk all over you. So I would never, recommend as a course of action. I mean, the thing about pulling out a gun on an Uber passenger that's not armed, apparently, is that if you're pulling it out, you're going to use it. And you can't really shoot somebody for refusing to leave your car. I mean, it is Florida, but I wouldn't be the freaking guinea pig for that one. Is it possible that you could shoot somebody for refusing to leave your car in Florida and get away with it? It's possible. Do you want to be that guinea pig for that experiment and find out if you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life, or if you're going to get away with it? I wouldn't want to be that guinea pig. I don't want to have to kill somebody regardless, so I wouldn't want to put myself in the situation where I could. The problem is you got all these idiots out there right now that are looking for the opportunity to hurt somebody if they could, and they don't realize that people who have been in that situation or have done it don't want to do it. Even police officers who have done it, it will be the regret of their lifetime. I have a police officer who's a friend of mine. I believe he's already passed away. He's not here. He was terminally ill, and he, before passing away, explained to me how he he had to go there, and it was an African American person, and it's bothered him his whole life. It's something he had to live with for the rest of his life. He didn't want to do it, but he had to do it. And the other person was armed, so it was like it wasn't optional. So he was expunged from this because he had to do it, and there was other officers there. There wasn't an option. He had to do it, and it bothered him for the rest of his life. It wasn't something that it's something that bothered him to his deathbed. So it isn't something to take lightly. So why you would pull out a gun if you're not really going to use it, or the situation doesn't merit you using it, is pointless. Even if it's legally justified, that doesn't mean you should do it. And that's the stupidity of people today, is that they feel that, oh, I have an open carry state, or I'm in the state of Florida, or, you know, I have my rights to be armed. Don't put yourself in a stupid situation and play stupid games and win stupid prizes. And this woman played a stupid game. She won a stupid prize. She got her Uber account closed. Is she going to get arrested? Probably not. So what I like to do as an Uber driver when these circumstances happen, and happen quite often, is the following. What I'll do is I'll tell people, hey, look at this. Cancel the ride. You're no longer my Uber passenger. Now, exit the Uber app. Oh, look, we're no longer active on Uber. So Uber's over here. You're no longer my Uber passenger, and the Uber app is no longer on. We're no longer on Uber. Now, you are now no longer on Uber. You are now trespassing in my vehicle. Now, because you're now trespassing on my vehicle, it's free game. Now, if you want to play this game, we can play it. But you got to let the person... Some people are scared of the police. The moment you mention police, they're gone. Even if they're criminals, the moment the notion of dialing 911 comes along, they get out. Now, for some reason, this passenger was so stupid, she didn't get out. So, my approach as an Uber driver, close the ride, close the app, and now you are no longer an Uber driver. On top of that, now we're not going to stay on your route. We're going to go somewhere else. So, if you want to stay in the backseat of my car, we're not going to just stay here in this where we're at now on your Uber ride. We're going to go somewhere else, and you're not going to like where we're going to go. And then where we go, you're going to be trespassing in my vehicle somewhere completely out of the norm. I'll tell people I'm going home, or I'm going to go to MLK and hang out by a corner store off of MLK. You know, I will pull that on a passenger. I'll say, okay, you know, the Uber app is off. You're no longer a passenger. You're trespassing on my vehicle, but we're not going to stay on your route. We're going to go somewhere totally different. You want to go somewhere different with me? Find out. You can get out anytime you want to, but now you also have the option of threatening the person and say, hey man, I'm calling the police. And I had a situation in Tampa where this girl refused to get out of my car, and she wouldn't get out. She started crying and saying she doesn't know where she's at. She wouldn't get out. We arrived at her destination, and she wouldn't get out. I'm thinking this is a setup for a robbery. I called 911. When I dialed 911, this little girl who was in that corner crying, pretending the victim, launched out to grabbed my phone, but I had a really long cord and it snapped back and I got my phone back. She tried to steal my phone from me while I was talking to 911 because she was going to set me up for a robbery. So here's the passenger crying, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm at. I'm scared. Why am I here? I don't want to get out. Back in my mind, this is a setup for a robbery. I got doors locked. I'm looking like a hawk. I'm ignoring her. I called 911. When I dialed 911, instantly she went from crying victim to trying to take my phone away from me because they were setting me up for a robbery. So what you have to know as an Uber driver is that you're going to be in... It's normal. It's normal for you to have people pull guns on you. I've had people pull guns on me twice. Most of the time it's people that are drinking, and in Florida it's against the law to be drinking and armed. So if you call the cops, like let's say the passenger pulls a gun on you, if they're inebriated, which it's against the law to be inebriated and possessing a weapon. So if you call the cops, they're going to get arrested. You know, most of the time when somebody pulls a gun on me, I continue to their destination. I don't stop or try to call the cops or anything like that. I continue to their destination, and I ask them to shoot out my windshield. I want to see if they're gangster. If you're really gangster, you'll shoot out my. I'll ask them. I'll pull windows down and say, shoot something over there. I want to see if you're really gangster. Let me see if you're really about it. Let's do a drive-by. Let's see if you're really about it. You need to find a way to de-escalate situations. Use your brain. Use your street smarts. Being an Uber driver is not for everybody. This is some real gangster crap. You got to be on point. And if you think that get a gun is gonna, I've been in shootouts. I've shot people, and I've had people shoot me. My first shootout was probably when I was 4 years old in Cuba. So I've been in shootouts. When I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, my neighbors next door were Vietnamese, and they were AZs, and they were having beef with the Chinese people. And we had to turn off the lights at 7 o'clock and go to sleep. My bedroom was in the front, but my parents made me sleep in the back because the front street, Southside Drive in Louisville, was always having drive-bys and stuff on a regular basis. So I've seen a bullet go past me more than once since I was little. And with all that said, in Alabama, not even to get into that situation because it's more recent. I've been on both sides of that. I've been in situations in Naples where people were back and forths, and I've been on both sides of that situation, unfortunately. And guns are not a solution to problems. Guns are usually people who are afraid to it's a cowardly move. Like pulling a gun. The most cowardly I have ever felt in my life is with a gun in the glove box. Nothing makes me feel. You're always reaching for it. You're always going for it. You're always afraid. Every time you get scared, instead of thinking outside the box to resolve the problem, you're thinking this. Let's reach. Let's reach. Every time you get scared, you reach. I'm scared. I'm reaching. I'm scared. Let me reach for it. It's not a solution. I know in the United States, people think that guns are the answer to everything. Guns are not the answer to everything, especially if you're an Uber driver. If you're an Uber driver, it's probably the start of your problems. For most people, the guns are the start of their problems. So, to this Uber driver, stupid move. You're never going to be an Uber driver again. You're not supposed to be armed as an Uber driver, and you were. I carry other devices in my vehicle, but I'm from the Caribbean island. So, but either way, you know, like as an Uber driver, if this person refuses to get out of your car, the only option you really have is to call the cops. You don't really have the option to garnish a weapon. Even if they garnish a weapon on you, if you garnish a weapon back on them, you're going to lose your Uber account. If you improvise a weapon, it's probably not as to the same caliber as their weapon. And even if you have a weapon, it's a dead end road. Like literally, if you're an Uber driver, somebody pulls a weapon on you and you pull a weapon back on them, now you're losing your Uber account for life. It's permanent. You violated their policy. I mean, this puts Uber drivers in a very precarious situation, but it's a liability thing of Uber. So if you're an Uber driver, you understand that in theory, if you pull out a real weapon, you're going to lose your account. Now, I go fishing, and I'm from the Caribbean. I carry a machete, but why would I actually... The thing about pulling if you're an Uber driver and you pull a weapon, and then if you pull a weapon, you practically got to use it. I mean, now I'm a guy, and I'm a big guy, so most guys that I've challenged to a fight are going to they're not going to go for it. Even if they probably have more physical capacity than me, they're just not going to go for it. You do have to, at some point, threaten violence of some sort to get some people to cooperate. But you just have to gauge the person and know if you're going to lie to them, which is probably the horrible idea because they're going to call you out for it. And threats are usually going to go along with lies. If you make a threat, you have to be able to live up to it. And most of the time, that means you're going to get arrested or you're going to lose your Uber account permanently. So it's not a real good option. This is not for the weak. This is not for the faint of heart. And it's definitely not for the stupid. As an Uber driver, you absolutely have to use your brain. You have to use your brain to a very high degree. You know, pulling a weapon or making a threat, it's never really an option. If you do find yourself in a circumstance where somebody brandishes a weapon, even then, it's questionable whether you pulling a weapon within close proximity to somebody is the best de-escalation method that you could use. I think the camera is a pretty good deterrent. I think your course of action is a good deterrent. Abandoning the vehicle is always an option. I know a lot of people don't believe in running away, but even that's, I mean, if somebody's really putting you on the spot, abandoning the vehicle is not a bad option, because then that person's now in a position where they're stealing your car. But I mean, if you have the option between somebody stealing your car and somebody physically harming you, I think a vehicle is worth less than a human. So I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do. Each circumstance is different. My personal experience, I think pulling a gun is probably the dumbest thing you could do, because what's the threat of violence? The person should just know you should be willing to do it without having to threaten them. And I mean, you shouldn't really, as an Uber driver, you shouldn't really have to threaten your passengers. I mean, if you do, you should be willing to carry it out. I mean, I don't know how to explain this. Just stupid people doing stupid things. I mean, my course of action could be to fight back physically and try to disarm the person. Could be to run away. It would just depend on the circumstance. And if you do have a gun, one, nobody should know you have it. Having a gun is like a last alternative. Once you're in a life-threatening situation, which she wasn't in, that's when a gun comes out. I mean, a gun doesn't come out until all other things have failed. I mean, if you have the option to run, probably don't use a gun. I don't even know what else to tell you. I mean, at the end of the day, pulling a gun on your Uber passenger is ridiculous. And it may be legal, but you're going to get your account terminated, which if you're Uber driving, you probably don't want that. So lots to think about here. I would just start with the notion of recognizing that as an Uber driver, if you pull out a gun on somebody, it's probably the last thing they're going to do. If you were going to pull a gun on that person, they probably weren't going to have a chance to upload a video to Instagram about you pulling a gun on them. That's all I'm saying. I mean, these are like last resort type things. These are not, you know, this person jumped to that conclusion too quick. And if you have to threaten somebody with a gun, probably you don't have enough get-go to actually, like, if I have to resort to threatening somebody with a gun to get them to get out of my car, man, you're just not a good Uber driver. I mean, you don't have enough. The person back there, when I look at you in the face, I'm going to tell you, hey, you going to get out, you're going to get out. And I don't care if you're a black guy with a gun, which has happened to me, with some dreads, acting all gangster and some gold teeth. I don't give a crap who you are. If I tell you getting out, you getting out. And you just got to have that heart, you know, to tell somebody, no matter if it's an 8-foot black guy with a gun, some dreads and gold teeth, if you tell them, hey, you getting out, bro, you getting out. And that's all there is to it. And if I go back there, I'm going to shove it where it don't fit. You know what I mean? And if you don't have the guts to physically tell somebody that, you know what I'm saying, a dude that's 2 foot taller than you, to tell him, hey, bro, you're getting out, you're probably not going to be a good Uber driver, because this ain't about the week, bro. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. And this is a female versus a female. It's not like two guys where the propensity to violence is higher, you know what I mean, or injury is more deadly. These are two female. One of them pull each other's hairs. I don't know what to tell you. Stupid people doing stupid things. If you're going to be an Uber driver, most Uber drivers are squares to begin with. I'm going to be real with y'all. They're creeps. They're creeps, you know what I mean, preying on women. If they're guys, if they're women, they're afraid of people. If they're guys, they're creepy. I mean, Uber drivers are just a weird bunch of people. I'm not going to lie to you. Most Uber drivers are just a bunch of weirdos, bro. They're scared. They're creeps. They're not really, they're not, I mean, it's a mediocre job. So you're not really the cream of the crop out here. And you're not dealing with a bunch of smart people. Uber drivers are not really the cream of the crop. Now, there are some great Uber drivers out there like me. We're the exception. But for real, if you're going to be an Uber driver, you know what time it is. You know what package comes with it. And you know that you got to have some guts to tell people what time it is, even if they're armed. I mean, let's flip the script on, forget about the driver pulling a gun. If you're going to be an Uber driver, you got to prepare for them to pull a weapon on you, and you still tell them to get out. and you're making somebody, you're unarmed, and you got to make them flee armed. That's the reality of being an Uber driver. And in my case, it's like, hey man, I'm Cuban. I'm gonna go to the trunk. I'm gonna grab a machete. And if you're gonna shoot me, I'm gonna swing at you. And I don't know about you, but it's a lot easier to pull. Most people don't want a machete at the end of the day, and that's why in Florida, most Uber drivers are Cubans and Haitians, and either one of them are gonna have a machete, not a gun. So mess around and find out. Now I done seen people get shot, and I done seen people get hit with machetes, and believe me, you don't want the machete. Bottom line. I hope you guys liked today's video. If you're an Uber driver, don't ever pull a gun on a passenger. And if you pull a gun on them, it's because they weren't going to have the opportunity to post it on Instagram afterwards.